Hey guys, welcome to a Saturday Stock Talk. Today's June 9th at 2:13 p.m. Eastern Time. Yes, this will cover tomorrow's Stock Talk, the usual Sunday Stock Talk, as well as the week of June 10th. So we're going to be going over the markets in general, the commodities, and finally tickers that you guys called out. Thank you once again for checking out this channel. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. If you've subscribed already, welcome back. And I love to see recurring viewers as well as new viewers coming to the channel just to see whether that you guys do find this content helpful. If you guys learn something, hopefully you guys can benefit and actually make a profit off of some of the strategies I talk about in this channel. So let's get started right away looking at SPY, which tracks the S&P 500 on the 180-day chart. We are using the Think or Swim platform. So here's the 180-day chart, right, which is pretty apparent to us because we've talked about a consolidation pattern between the 274 resistance and the 270 to 271 support. Note that the 274 resistance is now acting as, or should act as, a new support. However, we also talked about that we have a bull flag pattern. Note that the pull, consolidation flag, followed by another push higher. So the question is, how far can we push? So there's a couple of things to keep in mind, right? The current major resistance is actually the blue line, this 278 mark. And ironically, we actually managed to push over pretty much during the aftermarket on Friday. This was, you can see on Friday, we pushed over aftermarket to 278.42 to the high. So the question is, it acted as a resistance, but it didn't act as a major resistance in such that we didn't have that much trouble to push on top. And the reason why is we've talked about in the previous videos, right? Markets in general are more bullish right now because we crossed the red line. Note that the 180-day chart, we have a lower high line, right? And all of a sudden we pushed over and we consolidated for a period of 1 to 2 weeks. That's a significantly long time to consolidate in a bull flag pattern. Note that the longer we consolidate, the longer the markets garner the energy for another push higher. And because we consolidate for a long time, we expect the push higher to be great in magnitude as well. So just giving you an idea, it doesn't have to be doing this, right? But the percentage gain from here to here, from the bottom, near the bottom to the top, is around 4 to 5% on SPY. Now let's take a look at the current trend. What about this? We're only at 2.5%. So even though we have a resistance around 278, it doesn't really have to do that. It doesn't have to obey that because we can still easily go to where? Well, go to the 280 mark. You guys can see that. Let me just zoom in for you guys. The 280 mark is the next resistance area. So if you stretch from here, all right, to here, that's around 3%. That's a reasonable area when we can encounter some more resistance. Now, if we break this resistance, of course, the next resistance is around, very close by, around 282.50, followed by the major 180-day resistance at 286, 287 area. Okay, so before we get there, let's first just look out for the 280 resistance. Again, previous videos we talked about the markets being more bullish. So if anything, if you're asking me, Kevin, where do I take my position right now? The position has to be with the markets. Should SPY, should those tickers that follow the market start dipping, you're looking for an entry point into those tickers because those are good buying points as we have reversed from bearish to bullish, and we have to take advantage of this opportunity that's been given to us. Why? You can imagine on SPY, we've consolidated for so long down here, looking at the big picture, in the big scheme of things. Imagine where we are a couple months from now, a year from now. We've reversed from this position. I can easily see this number going to 280, 285, 290, 295, 300, even higher than that, because we've started reversing. It's not going to get there within 1 month or 2 months, but it's going to get there, in my opinion, eventually at some point. So this is the perspective that we should have at least going forward. So let's take a look at TVIX, or volatility. So here we are. All right, so here's volatility on the 180-day chart, and what do we see? Right, we see volatility pretty much falling below its major support, which was at 47.19. Okay, so let's mark that down as a support. I'm not sure where all the resistance support lines went, but here it is. And now it's acting as a resistance. Note that we challenged the resistance line at 47.32, and all of a sudden we got rejected, and now we're coming back down. So what is the play for volatility? Well, as the markets are pulling higher, you can certainly short volatility, but I would definitely not consider going long on volatility. As you can see, all three SMA and one EMA lines are all pointing lower, showing that we are on a long-term and a short-term trajectory to the downside, which is not something we want to go long in. Look at the one-year chart, you pretty much see the same thing, right? How we pretty much got rejected to the 20 EMA, and now we're just heading lower. We can still go sideways, no problem, as we hit 280 on SPY, but generally speaking, we expect this to continue going lower. All right, let's take a look at commodities. 4/CL continues to be a very interesting pattern that we are aware of and looking at for the past few weeks, few months, because crude oil has been making this higher low on the 180-day chart, right? Higher low. All of a sudden, what is going on? We talked about a potential bullish sign for crude oil should we push over the major resistance. The resistance is upsloping line, okay? And what is going on right now? Zooming in on the current past few days, we see that it's made a double bottom, number one. We've tested the resistance once, tested the resistance twice. The resistance is upsloping, tested the resistance 3 times. What exactly happened today on Friday? Look at this. I did not modify this higher low line. This was not modified from yesterday or the day before. And looking at the 5-day, 5-minute chart, resistance, 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 okay? But what do you say for crude oil? So right now, for crude oil, because this line is still upsloping, you can imagine the continuation pattern as crude oil still edges a little higher. It's a matter of time for crude oil to start pushing over that resistance should it start testing more and more and more on an upsloping scale, right? If it does come down to around $64, $68, or $65 again, you can find yourself another good buying opportunity in those tickers such as UWT, which follows crude oil futures, and GUSH, which follows exploration crude oil. So that's what I'm looking for. I actually entered into a position in GUSH. I'll talk to you guys about that in a moment. But I think Rico, one of the viewers on the video, you were looking for an exit point out of DRIP. So let's quickly talk about DRIP just to reiterate. So I think you got into DRIP around $7.15 or something like that, and you were asking, man, I didn't really get in at a good position. Where can I exit? So 7.15 is around up here, and now all of a sudden we've dropped down. So you were looking for an exit on Friday, which I wouldn't have blamed you. And look at this, right? We have a spike, another spike. Why did these spikes occur? These correlated with meeting the resistance points on crude oil futures, right? Crude oil futures on the 5-day, 5-minute chart. Rejected, rejected, okay? DRIP, inverse crude oil, spike, 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 a couple of spikes here, right? It's pretty much the same thing. So if you were able to get out of the position around the peak, especially around $6.76, I think you did a good job. Can it go higher? Sure, it can go a little higher, but you can imagine as crude oil keeps edging higher and higher with the upsloping resistance line, DRIP, even though it'll spike, it'll still be on a major overall downtrend. So hopefully you look out for that. Just be a little cautious once again if you're in DRIP. Looking at GUSH, here we are. So let's look at GUSH on the, so let me tell you my position. So GUSH, we were on a very predictable trajectory intraday. So ask yourself, given this graph, right, if you don't look, so if I box out this area, if I say don't look at this area, just look at when we started. As we progressed, right, we looked at here, it came down. We're not going to buy into crude oil yet, right, because we're expecting. But then it came back up. When it dipped the second time back to the bottom VWAP, I took that position. My position was actually when it started reversing around 37.60, right here, around this area. I took that position, and now it's just pretty much sideways, horizontal. It hasn't done that much, but I took that position because you can imagine right? Even if I still did a day trade, sold at near the high, you knew where to sell. So that's why it was a comfortable position for me, because crude oil was able to rebound from the resistance, failed resistance test at that time. So I'm in GUSH. Of course, if GUSH goes down, I can put in more shares into GUSH because, in my opinion, overall crude oil continues to be more bullish. Looking at UWT, pretty much same thing. Here's UWT. This one follows pretty much crude oil almost precisely, /CL. So you can see this major drop to 29.67, and now we're pretty much at trading maybe around 30.17, around that area. So that is something to watch. All right, let's look at /NG, tracking natural gas. The story for natural gas is what? Ask yourself. Well, if you've watched my past few videos, it's always been the natural gas has been on the higher high and higher lows trajectory. Continues to be that way, right? Here we go. Higher high, higher low. Natural gas is bullish. We're at the support once again. We talked about the horizontal support here. We're now talking about another horizontal support here. So pretty much the same thing. Where could you have taken a position on UGAZ or UGAZ that follows natural gas? Pretty much right now, if you're, more like, if you have more money, if you can, risk more money right now, this is the time to take the position in natural gas. If you don't want to risk that much money here, you can always take the position where's the most comfortable, where there's the most risk at 2.818 or 2.820. That's where you find yourself the most risk, because if you're right, you are right big. If you're wrong, you can be wrong quick. That's the whole strategy to making profits, right? So if you want to take a position here, I don't blame you, because you can write it back up to the resistance. This is a horizontal pattern. This is almost pushing like a bull flag pattern. Pull, flag, pull, right? And because this is upsloping, it makes a lot of sense, because we expect the high to be higher than this high, the next high. So if anything, I would be bullish for the ticker UGAZ or natural gas. So here's natural gas, fell 3.44%, but where did we fall to? Pretty much right to the support. So one thing I'm going to note is you can see that this line is no longer that relevant. So I'm going to remove these lines and start drawing in this line as the support. This is the more near-term support. So I'm going to draw this one in. Support's around 62.56, right? Pretty much where we're at right now. So if you guys took a position when it was dripping, not dripping, when it was declining, and then it started rebounding, you guys can see that it got rebounded, formed this 4-hour candle. At this point, you could have taken a position natural gas at around $62 to $63. That would be the prime opportunity, because you know that it's bounced from this area. So the next support, if it starts dropping again, is around this area, right? Around $60.08. If it does drop to that area, at that point, I am most likely going to take another position, or going to take a position on UGAZ, because that's a great buying opportunity, especially if that /NG, right? So, okay, let's look at /GC, gold futures. Man, gold futures. You guys know the story to this one if you watch the videos too, right? What was the story? Nothing's happening, right? We've talked about how gold is on this pattern. We don't have a defined support. Yes, this is the support more near term, but the support is around 1286. But you can see that in the past, this hasn't been a very strong support. So markets made up the support. Finally, the resistance is around 1312. Yeah, I can see why that's the resistance, right? It's acted as a support in the past, acting as resistance now. Where are we going to go? It can go up or it can go down. Who cares, right? At this point, it can go up 0.7%. It can come down 0.9%. Risk to reward ratio is not there. The JNUG and JDST are simply not moving fast enough to take a position. Sure, JNUG went up 1.49%, but honestly, it went up because this barely edged up. So it doesn't really matter. Not something I am actively looking at to invest in. All right, I'm going to read all of your exciting comments. I hope you guys are excited, because I certainly am. And if I have time, I'll post some more videos maybe tomorrow too, Sunday. So be on the lookout for that. But if not, then of course we'll go to the regular stock talk starting on Monday. Let's get to your tickers right now. Simon went long Tesla at 291 as they were shipping models to Canada, and they were knocking on the door of 200,000 deliveries. Also, MU held at $51. Watching for okay, so optimum entry point. So you're saying watching FSLR prospects for a short squeeze, good, just need optimum or optimum entry point. Okay, so FSLR, let's take a look at that one really quick. Whoa, my bad. Okay, FSLR, here we go. You're looking for an optimum entry point into FSLR. Ask yourself, do you see any pattern on the 180-day chart, 1-year chart, 3-year chart? So, right, this is not a pattern that we want to go in. Looking at the 3-year chart, what's been happening? Look at this massive decline, right? And then what? Look, this pretty much is a massive decline in the past. Consolidation to the 20 EMA, decline. Consolidation to the 20 EMA, decline. Consolidation to the 20 EMA, possible reversal, rejection at the 20 EMA, decline. And then finally, this was the push higher that we were looking for, back over. This candle right here is the push higher. Reconfirm the 20 EMA as a support, up. At this point right now, I can almost argue that once it starts consolidating sideways or consolidating downwards to the 20 EMA, which is the light blue line, that's a good short sell opportunity. Why is this a support? Well, this might be the support because it was a support here, it's acted as resistance here, but you can't reasonably say that this is just such downtrending, it's going down so quickly, you can't assume that this is just going to rebound and start reversing back here. That is guessing, and the odds are certainly not against you, or not with you, in my opinion, with taking a position right now. You can imagine how if you take a position right now, you're more chance of losing money at this point, in my opinion, than gaining money, just based off of pattern itself. So this is not an entry point that I would be looking at right now. And even if you were trying to, I know you're trying to get into a good deal, but a stock that's dropping this much, this quickly, is certainly too dangerous for it to be a good deal, because there's so many sellers in the market for this one. So yeah, thanks for calling this one out. Tesla is also an interesting one. So Tesla at 291, I think you got yourself in a very good position, at least right now. But just be cautious. Look at Tesla, right? We talked about Tesla. I'm revisiting this one for everyone because on the 180-day chart, sure, we're making a lower high, lower low. But look at the 3-year chart, right? We talked about this bull flag pattern that's been developing for the past week. Similar to AMD, except AMD has already broken out. You see that? How AMD has broken out the bull flag now? But Tesla hasn't broken out yet. So you might be like, isn't this the best time to take a position on Tesla? Like, isn't it going to break out now? But that's just a guess, right? It hasn't broken out yet. Look how we closed on the weekly close. We closed under the resistance line. So there's a couple of scenarios that can form, right? One scenario is consolidation right here before it goes back down toward another flag formation, right? Or it doesn't have to go all the way down to 250, but it can go down to 282 or 300 before it goes back up. Another option is next week we start a clear breakout signal. How do we break out? We start breaking through this way, retesting this as a support, which is the 321 area. If we close weekly over the 325 to 330 area, that is certainly a very bullish sign for Tesla. And at that time, I would take that position into Tesla because that shows that we are on a breakout trajectory. You can imagine, see, if we can close above in this area, that could be a sign of a breakout trajectory. So that's when I would take that position. But for now, this almost, I can argue, is a good time to sell, right? Look how we got on the peak and we got rejected. Sure, we did a double peak, triple peak, even 4 or 5 peaks before we came all the way down. But here, first peak, we failed, right? We can do a second peak, it can fail. Third peak can fail, and then it can come down. So it doesn't matter how many times it does it, but right now, the first time was not successful, so just be on the lookout for that. All right, looking at next comment. Ben, hey Kevin, SGH is looking good for entry. It just tested long-term support, falling big in the past few days. See what you think. So, sure thing. Yeah, SGH. So here's SGH. We're looking at the 180-day chart. It fell big. Yeah, I do agree. See this massive 2 candles that kept falling. Okay. So what were you saying? Were you saying this is a support? Just testing long-term support. So let's look at the 1-year chart. And let's look at the 3-year chart. Okay, so looking at this candle structure, we know that this is a pretty good trajectory actually on the 3-year chart, right? You guys can see that it's every time it's bounced off the blue line or the 20 EMA, it manages to recover at some point. But one thing to keep in mind is look how long after a major drop it starts consolidating, right? Here's the major drop right here. Once, twice, 3, almost 4 weeks, right, of consolidation at the 20 EMA before it spiked up. Okay, so this time around, you can imagine massive candle, retest the 20 EMA, bounced off. Retesting the 20 EMA, I want to see at least 1 more week of candle of holding over the 20 EMA support, because you can imagine, because it risen so much, it can easily form this bull flag pattern, right? This flag pattern, so it can even dip below the 20 EMA, but close above the 20 EMA on the weekly basis before it starts another leg up. I like this pattern. It's just right now, we need 1 more week. This is the first week, right? Here, this is the first week. Second week, then it went up. First week, we need at least 1 more week before we enter. So looking at the 180-day chart, you said this is a long-term support. I agree, but you know, if you did something like this, what would you say? It's a little more concerning how we broke below and we weren't able to recover the last 4 hours. Look what happened in the last 4 hours, right? 1 day, 1 minute chart. A recovery, but a stern rejection pretty much near the resistance area, coming back down. So that's the market's way of telling you that it's not ready to get up there, even though we're at the 20 EMA. It's not ready to recover just yet. And I can see why. We can see why, right? You can see why it's not ready. Look at this peak, right? Higher peak, lower peak. Higher peak, lower peak. Here. How long did we consolidate after this massive drop? 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. So we kind of talked about that pattern. We should wait at least minimum 1 week before we look into this one. So, all right. Who's next? Doffel. I hope that said your name right. The way you talk is very much like Ricky. Did you learn this from him? So yeah, I did learn some stuff from Ricky as well, some patterns as well, but most of it was from my own experience. And I think you'll quickly learn that even though I provide these content videos, these strategy videos, the patterns that I see, in the end, it's your money. It's your decision. And in my opinion, you shouldn't rely on me or anyone else to make your decisions because it's your money, right? I just try to help you to go, look at a specific pattern a specific way, because that's how I look at it and that's how I make money off of it. So yeah, I hope this helps you in, like other people do. Rizwan, Kevin sold BABA today. Will you go over BABA? Seem like it will test $200 support. So yeah, sure. So BABA is Alibaba. Okay, you said 200 support. Where is that? It's right here. Okay, so we're looking at the weekly chart, and one thing to note is, okay, this isn't really a bull flag pattern. It's actually a not very well developed bull flag. If it's the flag, that's a very short flag by all means, so we can't really assume it's a bull flag. But at the same time, you see how we've been making this top, right? This peak around 205.93. We managed to pull above it, but to kind of closed under it. Let's look at the 1 year chart really quick. Okay, 180 day. So one thing to note is, as you're looking at this pattern, what are you looking at? Are you looking to buy in right now? So $200 support is pretty much right here, right at the 20 EMA. Note that we're still near the peak. So one thing to note is, here we are at the $200 mark. If you bought in right here, the candle structure above it, yes, we kind of recomfort. It depends on what pattern you're looking at, right? If you're looking at the near-term pattern, you know that, oh, it bounced off the 20 EMA, now it's going up, and now it went to the 20 EMA, it bounced up. So you might be a little more convinced, but at the same time, I want to convince you that the number of candles above the 20 EMA isn't sufficient enough, and such that because we've had this long push higher, this huge push higher, we did consolidate for a little bit, I like it, but because we have this huge push, we want to retest the 20 EMA at least to reconfirm the 20 EMA before taking that position. Yes, it has potential to continue going higher, sure, but can we imagine something like this occurring again? I can't right now because this consolidation pattern wasn't long enough, in my opinion. Yes, it was kind of long, but look at this long, trajectory higher, right? This was a, what percentage? This was a over 100% pull, right? Higher. We only consolidated for 219 days, or only, right? But still, it's not as long as we would expect it should we start pulling a little higher. But certainly has potential, but not by right now. Get some better evidence before buying it. Adrian, thanks for the breakdown of Disney. It went up 4%. Yeah, no problem. Tango, hey Kevin, can you please take a look at VRX? This is absolutely a bull run. Not sure about the entry though. So VRX. So here's VRX. We're looking at the 3-year chart. So one thing to note is this is a pharmaceuticals company, so we want to take that with a grain of salt, as there might be drugs in the pipeline that I'm not aware of, but you might be, which is why the stock is rising. People might be pricing in those pharmaceuticals, drugs at the same time, and look how much it's dropped, and now it's finally kind of recovering. One thing to note is look how we've in the past recovered, rejected, came down. Now we're kind of recovering again past the previous high, but if it does come down, just be on the watch for that. On the 180-day chart, right, I agree. It's been bouncing off the 50 SMA, right? 50 SMA bounce, 50 SMA bounce. But like you said, it's very overextended right now. Why take a position right now when we know that, look at here, right? 50 SMA acts as a support. Wait for that position. Take a position at the 50 SMA, right? If it comes down, think about your position. 24.25 versus 25.79, right? You'd be in a more comfortable position. If it dips a little lower, you'll be a little okay with that because you're like, I bought in at a pretty good price point. I know where my stop loss is. If you bought in right now, where is your stop loss? Well, your stop loss has to be below the 50 SMA, right? Because you're willing to take that because you know that it's part of proper movement for the stock. So you're willing to take that 10% loss. So the question is, are you really willing to take that 10% loss? And usually for most people, it's no, I'm not willing to take that loss. So in this case, wait for the 50 SMA, take that position, and then go long, onto this one. So, all right. Any other comments? Hi, Kevin. Sanjutha, would you please check for the Square is still keeping up? I would like to know what a good position for it is for entry. So here's Square. Square right here. Right? Square, it's on a pretty strong breakout signal. You guys can see that it recovered, even though it came down, it recovered as the markets are pulling higher. So one thing to note is I do expect Square to continue going higher, but at the same time, I would like to take a position when it's at 58.63, reconfirming the support at the very least. It just, yes, it's been rising, and yes, it can rise faster. Okay, at the very least, right, we want to go back to the 50 SMA. Support, 50 SMA. At the very least, when it gets to 50 SMA, 59.57, that's when I would consider taking a position, or at the support down here. But right now, if you really wanted to go long on Square, you could, but just realize, like the previous examples, that we are near the high, right? I do like the trajectory for Square, but look at this. Look how high we are all of a sudden. When we're so overextended over the 20 EMA, which is 20% almost, right? What was this? 20% almost? Look at this catastrophic drop. Are you willing to risk 20+% back to the 20 EMA? Probably not. So wait for the opportunity. If you guys want to take like a quick day trade or a quick 1 to 2 day swing trade, I wouldn't mind that too much for Square, but holding it long term is a little risky given the position that we are at right now. Okay, so Christian, great info. What do you think about LRCX? So here is LRCX. So here's LRCX. I actually drew in this line, actually broke above, but once again, we're coming back down. One thing to note is this is another kind of bull flag pattern, see, right? And the markets are all following this pattern right now because you can imagine markets were volatile, and most of the stocks kind of follow the market. So bull flag, no clear breakout yet, but at the same time, there's a horizontal pattern of support actually around here, right? The horizontal support is pretty much around. Let me draw this a little better. 185.04. So yes, we're at the support, but maybe we can wait for it to go down a little lower. 173.92. You could take a position right now, but what's your percentage for gain? Okay, not bad. 5 to 7%. Percentage for loss, 3 to 4. Depending on where you put your stop loss. So this is a good one. I think we're at the support now. If you want to take a better position, once it dips to 176 to 180, those are better positions, right? So just depends on your comfort level. Good pattern. I like it. Once it goes up, you know where to sell. Once it goes down, you know where to buy in. Perfect. Great call out. Not the usual call out, but can you look at Visa, Chris? Yes. Here's Visa. Visa's been on my watch list for a long time because we know Visa, as a lot of mobile payment systems are very bullish. You guys can see Visa confirmed the 20 EMA as support. Now we're going back up. So Visa, you could take a position here. Once again, this is similar to Square in that the question is, are you willing to risk that 4.5% loss or 5% loss? I think you could. How do you invest? You don't invest all of your money right now. You invest a portion of your money, and this is something that I'll talk about in my course as well. What portion, like for example, to invest in. But if you invest a portion of your money into Visa right now, and once it starts, if or when it starts dipping, you can add more position as it gets to the 20 EMA because you know that it's acted as a support. That would be probably the best option in my opinion. Surely you can take a position right now in Visa, right? Because it has potential to continue going higher. So you guys can see that it's kind of reconfirmed this area of support, reconfirmed the orange line or the 150 SMA as a support again, and now it's on the uptrend. So good call out, great job. Under Armour RL, okay, so we have a lot of tickers right now. Oh my goodness, so this video is super long, I realize. So here's Under Armour. I think Under Armour is another one that's been incredibly bullish. Right, looking at the 3-year chart, we see a massive extension over the 20 EMA. How long will this last? Who knows, right? The breakdown there's a resistance around right here at $24. Resistance certainly at $25 around there, $24 to $25, and we're actually kind of close to the resistance. So not something that I would actively invest in because we've climbed so much and that we're closer to the resistance than you actually think. So let me just look at the 1-year chart really quick, and then 3-year chart. Yeah, so we're pretty much close to the resistance area, and even though it's been on an upward trajectory significantly, this is one where I'm definitely looking for some sort of rejection of the resistance and at least coming back down to the 20 EMA before possibly another leg up. So entry point now, not yet, but in the future, possibly. Addy Boy, wonderful breakdown of SPY. Could you take a look at RIOT for me, please? Right, here we go. Whoa, okay. So right, you can see that on the 3-year chart, we have a massive spike followed by a massive downtrend, pretty much pulled back to its support, and now we're right here. Let me just take a look at the potential for profit for this one. Well, yeah, right? The potential for profit is not there. That's 12%, I agree. But given this pattern, right? If I showed you this pattern, like this, and it start consolidating, it's like sideways right now, right? Consolidating sideways. This is an interesting pattern. It's just, okay, so this is a horizontal pattern for the most part. It's been making higher lows at this area, right? At the same time, it's making slightly higher highs, but that's being really, really optimistic that this was the high. So we're going to say that this is the higher high. At the same time, so we, at the very least, expect, if you want to take a position, you can take a position at 723 and then release it when it gets to 867. That's still actually a significant portion, margin of profit. The only thing about this one is, look at how fast it dropped. And I certainly don't want to be catching it if it starts another leg downwards. Like Here's the 1 year chart, right? So you guys can pretty much see a similar pattern here. So if you want to take a position, I would be patient on this one once again and wait to get a little lower. This is the low area. Should it start spiking up, right? We're near the middle part. When it gets a little lower, 718 to 750, you can take that position. But at the meantime, I just wouldn't, because we're in the middle and 50-50 shot. There's other stocks which can get better odds than 50-50. All right, I think that is it. Did we do that? Yeah. So Jurison, DSLV. I think, have we gotten over DSLV in the past? Yeah, we talked about DSLV and how you can see this horizontal pattern on the 180-day chart, and that we want to get in around 2185 instead of right now. As it's declining, we don't want to be going in to this one right now until we get to the support. So yeah, I think that's all the tickers. I try to make it as fast as possible, but you know, it happens that we make videos longer. So yeah, I hope you guys find this video helpful. I'll see you guys in the next Stock Talk, which is on Monday. Like if you like this video. If you didn't like it, I hope you like it in the future. Be sure to subscribe to this channel if you find this content helpful. If you made money off of it, you know, just let me know, and let's all learn together and see where you exited, where you took your position, and how did you make your profit. So thanks once again, and I'll see you guys on Monday.